information about what is palliative care and what is the interdisciplinary team. So this is the continuation of the session. Uh, as you can see, the heading, yeah, as you can see from the heading, it's laying the foundation of good practice. In every profession, we have to start from the basic structure. I think laying the foundation is very much important in the field of palliative care. So laying the foundation of good practice starts with what is palliative care, what is the total pain, social diagnosis, all the things. So these all are interconnected. In the previous sessions, you have a good knowledge about what is total pain. As you can see from the screen, the physical pain reported by a patient is component by his or her current life circumstances. And the social diagnosis means an understanding of psychological, biological, social, and environmental factors operating on the person in his situation or his or her situation. So these are the two facts that we have already discussed. So we're just moving on to the next one. Everyone has a doubt, like a person. I don't want to mention the patient, means the name patient everywhere. So I would like to call them as a person because they need, means they have the dignity and we have to um, show it, means we have to show them that they are one among us. So that's why I'm going with it. Like, why is psychosocial care is very much important in palliative care? We know that living with a life limiting or life threatening illness or a serious injury or serious uh, disease or the approaching of death causes a unique stress between everyone, not just the person who is suffering from the illness. The people who are surrounded by them also get stressed and they also face so many challenges. A serious illness disrupts an individual very vastly. It may be according to their feelings, thoughts, relationships, social and spiritual supports, financial stability, and spirituality also. When you consider a person is a person who is surrounded by his society. These all are linked together. So when a problem arises in the life of a person, it will always connected to these all things, and the mood swings and the pain also transforms to the his connecting things like relationships, social, spiritual supports, financial stability, and spirituality, etc. So here is the importance of assessment is needed. As we all know, in a palliative care, the collection of information or the gathering of information about a person is as much as important as pain management, because when you collect the whole information at once means it's a gradual process. Of course it's a gradual process. We can have the information at the very first stage, but when you have the exact details or the exploration process of gathering information is very much important. The second thing is the selection of goals and interventions always depends on what is being assessed. So what we started at first means you can just I will say it with a small example. When you're going to buy something or when something happens to your life, you will firstly assess yourself. Yes, is it very good for me? How will be the future with that thing? Everything, whatever comes to your life, you will assess it first. Then after that, if anything get worse, then you will just relate it with, yes, this was my decision. So it should have to be happen. So that's why we can connect it with our life also. The exact assessment is very much needed for the goals and interventions, means selection of goals and interventions in an assessment. So this is a basic thing. you can just relate it with assessment. When we have an inaccurate or incomplete assessment, it will always lead to inappropriate goals and interventions. Um, Simply speaking, if you have a problem in your one finger and you will have to treat the whole hand, it will surely made a problem for the whole hand. It will not cure the problem in one finger. At some stages, the finger's problem will be solved, but it will also affect the whole hand also. So a proper assessment is needed to solve all the issues. Otherwise, it will lead to inappropriate goals and interventions. So what is the aim of an assessment? The main aim of an assessment is to identify the factors that may influence the well-being of patient and the family. So here is a, yeah, next one. Yeah. So here is an example, means I want someone to, like maybe, Sir Ajin sir, I think you're the best person, means you're the first person I'm seeing on screen. Could you just please tell me what you see on these pictures and what will you, means what is your learning about this? Can you please share your thoughts?
In the first picture, we can see a narrow road where vehicle approach is very difficult for a paraplegic patient or quadriplegic patient. Second, in the second photo, we can see a small hut-like shed where the patient lives in a very difficult and pathetic situation where the roof should be changed at the rainy season. Uh, this particular shelter is not at all preferable for a patient, especially for a palliative care patient. Access is so difficult. That much I know.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. I think, Ajay sir, you expressed what I want to share. So thank you so much for your kind information. We can just relate it with our palliative care. Means, yeah, this is a first one is a stone paved path, and second one is a home. Actually, we can't say it is a home. Uh, it's a hut with so much problems there. If a climate change occurs, means if any rain occurs, the persons who are living in that situation may get affected very vastly. So these are two things we observe during the home visits. I'm coming to that part on the next slide. Um, the sources of information that is gathered by home visits are very much important, because when we reach to them, we can know about if the person is reachable or he is have a good relation with other people, means he is socially able to interact with others, or if he is having any pain or any concerns, um, if he is able to go to a hospital very fastly. So these all kinds of things can be assessed with the help of a home visit. So this is a very important aspect of information collection. So thank you, sir. Once again, thank you, sir, for your information. Okay, then next one is patient or caregiver. In my perspective, it is the person or the caregiver. The information shared from them, the basic information, it's very much important because they know what is the exact problem of them, and they can share a lot of details about them. Then, if they are very hesitant to speak out, in some cases, the patient or the caregiver is not able to express their own things, because we have to build a rapport in between the caregiver or the patient and the social worker or the doctor or nurse. So for that, if that is not possible, then we have to find another way. That is where the collateral sources comes into action, like friends, relatives, neighbors, etc. And also, I want to mention, like from Sunita, undeveloped road or out of city, hut without maintenance, or people under poverty living there. Thank you so much for sharing. Here, collateral sources means friends, relatives, neighbors, because whenever they are not sharing anything, we can relate it with others also. So these all are things are the sources of information. Means with the help of this, we can assess more. Can we have the next slide? So as I suggested earlier, assessment is an ongoing process. It never ends because the need of a person changes according to their course of it, or according means over the course of illness. At first, we can relate it with any person that we met in our life, because at first, if you want to think of a small kid or a person, a youngster, his first priority will be like, yeah, I want a bike. Yeah, then he'll be going for, I want a car. Then the needs changes. But have you ever think about a patient, a person who is going through a severe illness, and his first priority will be the pain management. The first thing will be to overcome that. Then his problems will be arise like psychological problems, financial burdens. So these all should be assessed properly. That's why I'm telling you that assessment is an ongoing process. So purposeful observations and conversation are much needed to assess the problems of a person. So what are the important areas to be assessed from the point of view of total pain? Can anyone share their thoughts? Any one of you, because we don't have a lot of time as well. I think, Sir Ramakrishna sir. So are you hearing?
Yeah, namaste. Probably I would like to remain silent today, and my young friends may please join.
Okay, sir. So if you have any thoughts regarding this, you can share it via chat box, okay? Yes, physical and psychological, very good. Ryan D'Souza. Yes, that's a very important thing. Yes. So any more? Yes, social, very good. Can we say, thank you. Emotional, yes. Of course, emotional is very much needed. It's an important area. Then anyone? Yes, spiritual, economical. Yeah, good. Sunita, thank you. Yes, spiritual was also mentioned. Yes. Sneha, thank you. Okay, you can share your thoughts.
Of course, psychosocial is there.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Psychosocial. Okay, so the important aspects means previous slide. Okay.
Probably may I come in here for a moment?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. I think the group has left out on the financial component.
Yes, sir.
Why this is very, very important is that with the palliative care, mostly it affects people
Economically. Yes.
very, very below poverty line.
Yes, sir.
When they are not financially strong, all the other things will become really weak. They may be telling that emotionally they are very strong, they're physically very, very strong. But once the finance is not there, the primary source for survival, if it is not there, rest of the things become very extremely difficult to manage. We need to definitely assess how they are surviving and what kind of standard is there in their survival, and how they are going to cope up with this present crisis in the time to come. Probably if we are all doing together free of cost this palliative care, it is only because the reason these people cannot afford money to pay for, to buy the palliative care resources, palliative care services.
Yes,
So in this connection, I tell them we are raising donations, we are providing free home visits, we are providing free inpatient facility, we are providing free medicines. But
Okay.
when the family is struggling, when the housewife gets up in the morning, she has to decide between the meal or medicine, whether she has to provide medicine for her husband or whether she has to provide food for her children. This is a very difficult decision every day she has to make.
Yes.
Hence, the financial component makes a very important component of palliative care, in particularly in below poverty line cases.
Thank you, sir, for sharing. I think the point was being shared also by Sunita K. Economical. Yes, we'll come to that in the coming slides. Okay.
Thank
So
you.
the important areas. Thank you, sir. So the important areas to be assessed from the point of view of total pain is as follows. The first one is patient and family overview. The second one is insight. Third one, family overview. Fourth one, socioeconomic overview. Fifth one, psychological overview. Sixth one, spiritual overview. Seventh one, psychosexual overview. And the last point is the very important thing, interventions and plan. According to all this, we will conclude, means we will get to a point where what are the interventions to be taken and what are the plans for the future. So starting with the first one, a patient and family overview. It is the basic one. Whenever a person reaches a palliative care, the first priority should be their details. What are the details we can collect about them is very much important. The basic demographic details are first, then occupation before and after illness. It's very important because the person should be the main breadwinner of the family. But after the illness or after the diagnosis, the person would not be able to go for a job. So that should affect them means the family very dangerously. So that is an important thing in patient and family overview. And the last one is primary caregiver and relation. So who is the breadwinner now and what is the relation between the patient and the caregiver? Next one is insight. Of course, insight is very much important, I think, because in some scenarios, patient and family means the patient should know what is the diagnosis, but the family doesn't know about it. But vice versa, the family knows about what is the diagnosis, but the patient doesn't know. So we have to collect the proper insight from the patient and the caregiver or the family members. Then what is the prognosis? What is the outcome? Means what we have to do in future, or what are the treatment methods that we have to do for this person. So whether it is known to the patient and family, so we have to assess that. Then the last one is palliative care. Actually, in every person knows about palliative care is like it is the end of stage, or there is no hope for the person. Then we can shift them to palliative care. That is the overall concept or overall stigma that we are having in everywhere. So we can educate them. We can give information about palliative care. So this will be helpful in the assessment phases. Then after that, here comes family overview. This is an important aspect because in this, what is the structure of the family and who are all the members? We can collect the whole details, and also what is the relationships, what are the family dynamics, what are the support systems they are getting, history of illness in the family. It's very important to know about the history of illness because some rare diseases are hereditary. So it's very important to know about history of illness in the family also. And the continuation is genogram. Basically, we can call it as a family tree. It was first developed by Murray Bowen. It is a graphical representation of a family. We can collect the details at least for 3 generations, which will depict the structure of the family. So then the dynamics, what are the bonds, relationship in between the family, and what are the strengths of the family, then what are the resources they are getting, means what are the supports they are getting in that family system. Then the information types should include name, age, education, occupation profile, and emotional relationships. Yes. So these are the basics. That's why I'm not going into further informations. So moving on to the next, the continuation of it is this is the pictorial representation that leads to a genogram. Uh, I think it's very much visible to all of you that you can understand what it meant. It's you can show a male person by a square, then a female by a circle, then a relationship is a straight line. Then if a cross line is there, then they are separated. Then double cross line, then legally they are divorced. Then a straight line and a dotted line means adopted child. A dotted lines only mean foster child. A triangle means pregnancy. A small circle with a cross mark will mean stillbirth. Then miscarriage will be a small circle. Abortion is an into line. Then in most cases, there will be twins in the family. So we can conjoin two lines and we can represent it. So this is an important one, emotional relationships. When we are in the first stage, I want to clear one thing. In the first stages, we are not able to, means we are not in that pole position for making emotional relationship and get it to be fixed or just include it into the genogram at first. So it will take a few sessions or 2 or 3 assessments for us to have a clear picture about the family's emotional relationships. As in the picture, you can know plain or normal means there is no problem. Then friendship or close friendship, then it will be in dotted green lines. Then intimacy or very close means 2 straight lines, green lines. Then hostile or conflictual means any conflicts arrives in between them, and it is depicted in zigzag lines. Violence is very close to zigzag lines. Then emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect or abuse in the family. Okay, this is a small example of a genogram. I think with this, this is a basic one. So I'll go to an elaborated one. So in this case, you can see there's 3 generations. Means in the topmost, we can see that Mohan and Leela, they are the first generation. Then comes to the second generation to Indhu, Mani, Bindhu, Ravi, etc. Means their family members, means their children. Then comes the actual person, means who is having a problem, that is Sindhu. So here, the whole things can be elaborately done. As I mentioned earlier, the green lines show you a strong relationship between them, and the zigzag lines means Sindhu got married, means twice married. The first, the husband in the first marriage got deceased, and she got married to another person, and they have 2 children at that relationship, and she got 1 children in the previous one. But you can see the zigzag line over the second husband and the first children, Sharad, where the zigzag line means there is a violence, means their relationship is not very stable and there is a violence towards the son, the first son. So this is a basic or detailed genogram you can have. Okay. So then we comes to next one, EcoMap, support system. So a support system is first been, EcoMap has been first developed by Anne Hartman. And it is the pictorial representation of patient's family in a social environment. Means every person or every human being doesn't rely on himself. He has to work and he has to be connected with the whole larger society. A support system is needed for a person to adapt to their problems. Means if they have any problems, they can approach for any support systems, or they can avail any help from others. That is what we have to assess in this echo map. It is a snapshot view of important interactions of patients, family with other groups, such as groups, extended family, individuals, organization, association, if they are getting any help from the organization, if they are related to any associations. Sometimes in very rare cases, some individuals will help them financially, and if any extended family members also give support to them. So this all can be included in an echo map. So this is the basic one. What are the support a family can get? So an elaborated one will be following. A family gets supports from health service, extended family, friends, neighbors, workplace, local services, clubs. Yes, but there is a small doubt in everyone. Like, is this all things are very much related to the family? No, because they are related, but in very different manners. The next one shows you that. Here in the circle, this is an immediate family. Means the person who are staying together and the patient is there, now denoted by faded lines. So you can see that so much arrows are coming outside from the circle. At first, you can see a bold line from church, youth organization, and college. These are strong relationships, means strong supports from others. Then you can see straight lines where both sided arrows are there and also one sided arrows are there. The patient gets help from self-help group. It is a one-sided one. But his husband gets help from colleagues, but it's both ways. And there's also a public health center's help is getting for the patient, but it is a dotted lines, means it's a weak one. And also there is a problem with neighbors, stressful relationship. So this is the basic structure of an echo map. Okay, if you have any doubts, you can share it in the chat box. Okay. So moving on to the next is caregiver. Firstly, I want to start with the last portion. Never dehumanize them by calling them bystander, because they're a person. They gives all the help and all the support for the patient or the person whom they love most. This is a famous word depicted by Rosalind Carter. There are only four kinds of people in the world. Those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need a caregiver. We can always relate it with our life. How? I'll tell you. The first thing, you can assume, if you want to assume me as a person, then in my future, means in my life, I have been a caregiver for my grandparents. That's the first thing. And currently, I'm a caregiver for my father and mother. Then I will be a caregiver for my father and mother in the future. And also, I need a help in the future. And there is someone needed for taking care of me. So it's all related with every person. A person in a lifespan is always related with a caregiver. So that is what Rosalind Carter very beautifully depicted here. And we have to respect those individuals and acknowledge their complex role, because they are also human beings. They also have emotions. They also have their own problems, their own stressful things. And they also want to achieve so many things. They are sacrificing all these things for their loved ones. So a caregiver is an important one, and he's a backbone. We can say that he's the backbone of a person who's having a serious illness. Next one is socio-economic overview. As Ramakrishna sir said, his point comes here. Every person doesn't have means every person is not stable with their economic situations. Some people are very much stable, some are not. Some are very poor, some are not so poor. In Pallium also, we are having a small categorization of people's means. During the COVID situation also, we take people's list and we discuss about them. We reach on to them and we just assess their situation and we just give help for them. So socioeconomic overview is an important aspect. If they're getting adequate food, clothing, or shelter, that have to be assessed. A primary breadwinner and who controls the finances is very important. Then if they have any debts in the family, means we know that financial support is very much less in the case of rural areas where debts is a day-to-day thing in their life. So we have to assess that. Then what are the sources of income for the family? Then what are the social support or government schemes or local financial supports they are getting? If you know the exact government schemes or local financial support, what they are getting, if they don't get anything, then we can help them. That is the main thing. Then also, if a person gets severely injured or severely ill, then it will always relate to the education of the children. That will very vastly affect them. Then psychological overview. It will always have a problem psychologically. A person, when everyone thinks of a person as a whole person, is having problem in psychologically. So psychological distress can be assessed. Then emotional support. What are the emotional support they are getting? Then anticipatory grief, coping mechanisms with the situations can be assessed with the help of psychological overview. Then comes spiritual assessment. What is the connection of them? What are the strengths and comfort? What are the connection with others? That is the main thing to live for whom. That will be the question arised during these situations. Then what are the hopes for them, and then what is the concerns of them? These all should be assessed during the spiritual assessment. But as I said earlier, this is a gradual process. We can't ask them in the first initial stages. We have to make a good bond between them and us. Then after so many sessions, we can unlock the spiritual realm of them. Then psychosexual assessment. If the patient is a young person, it will always affect them with the sexual intimacy with the couple, means the wife or the husband. So it will lead to problems psychologically also. It will lead to family problems. I don't want to say an example because we all know that this is an important aspect in life, and the relationship quality is maintained. It's a one thing. I will not say that it's an important thing. Yes, it's an important thing, but it's also one of the main priority of assessment. Then this is the one. Yes. After all these interventions, means after all these assessments, we come to the main point: interventions. If the assessment is properly done, then we can gather the information. We can link them by listening, then with the help of regular follow-ups, we can know about their current problems or rectified problems or future problems with the help of regular follow-ups. Then if they need any bereavement support, we can give them. If rehabilitation is the problem, then we can give facilitation, supportive counseling. So these all are interconnected with interventions. So for that intervention, what you need is a proper assessment. To summarize, assessment is the essence, is the core of a palliative care, and it is a participatory process. Means you can't have all the information on your own. It is an exchange between the person, means the patient or the person, and the assessing person. So the information can be derived from different sources, as I said earlier, like with the help of friends, families, etc., and the support system they are getting. We can have information from that side, and also with the help of home visits. Then it helps to identify the impact of illness, patient resources, and strength and power dynamics within the family. We don't know who is the person, who's the right person to take decisions in the family. So these all should be assessed with the help of a proper assessment, and it should help to intervene and setting a goal and exploring their problems and uh, getting proper intervention to that problem. Then the last one, assessments have to be documented, revised, and updated. Um, because for future use, documentation is very much important. If we just if there is a concern of the patient, like a small bit of concern, like they are having a problem very emotionally. If we just forget to document it properly, then it will lead to problems in any implementation of any new things. And also, this should have to be revised and updated. During the course of time, the problem should be rectified. So we have to update it properly. So these are the whole things about assessment and laying the foundation of good practice. So this is my session. If you have any doubts, we can have a discussion. So I'm inviting all of you for a chat with me, or otherwise you can use the chat box over here.
Hi,
Yes.
Good afternoon, Nilya this side. I mean, one, it was a lovely presentation, and I have a quick question, for the panel here, really, for the group. I just wonder, so from experience, how many sessions do you take with the patient? I do understand, being a psychologist, that there's no set number of sessions that are there per patient, but say from the time they come to you to the time they go back home, do you have something like in your mind that we'll try and resolve the sessions in at least 4 to 5 or 8, 10 sessions? Is there anything like that in your mind, or does it continue for years? Just curious.
I think the environment which we are living means what are the setting we are sitting is also important to make the assessment also. And also it's a time consuming thing because we are exploring the things from them. It's not like with one session we can know all the things about that person. It's not going to happen. If they are very much open, then we can learn all the things at one session. But as psychologists, I think you may know that from one visit, we can't assess them. So it's a gradual process. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 sessions. Sometimes it takes 6 to 7 sessions. Sometimes it takes more than 8 or 10 sessions. So making a bond with them is most important, and listening is a main thing, I think, in the case of assessment. So I think you get an answer. If you don't get it, you can ask me one more time. I'm here to help.
That was helpful. Thank you. Thank you. Also, just a suggestion, I think, because the expertise within the group are really, really diverse. Like some are really, I think they're hearing about palliative care for the first time, and some are experienced in the field. I just wondered that, could there be more case examples, and, how do we balance out this? Because there are both extremes of people on this, in this particular group. Again, just a question.
Okay, so we have a case presentation following up after this session, means the continuation of the session. So with the help of that, all the diverse person can know about what is the session and what we can implement on the field.
And one more thing, Nilya ma'am, we'll be having case presentation for majority of our sessions. So it would be helpful for everyone to get a more idea about palliative care and the aspects which we are covering. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.
May I speak my mind? Hello.
Sir, please go ahead.
Okay. Madam Millia was talking about how many sessions would be required. Maybe because of my experience, I can tell. Maybe Mr. Sharath will be able to complement this. There is no set number of sessions that can be fixed, because the entire process of palliative care is an evolving one and it's a dynamic one. Situation in the family, whether it be physical, financial, or social, and emotional, it will be very, very dynamic. So you need to make the need assessment as early as possible and keep moving along with that, how the priorities keep changing. Now, you cannot fix the goals and intervention. Once it is fixed, it is not a permanent one. Maybe in the course of next 2 months, suddenly the priorities may change. The preferences and the desires of patient may change. Hence, Mr. Sharath was telling this is an evolving process, this is a continuous process, and there is a dynamic process. In that sense, you cannot fix the number of sessions. It is more important to build the rapport with the family and the patient to elicit the informations and their concerns. That is more important for us as palliative care team. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mudraji.
Yeah, thank you,
Hello.
Mudra.
I would like to add into the discussion. Actually, the thing is, like here in palliative care, we are dealing with the patient and with the family, and like already the family and the patient, they are going through much, and it's not like psychological assessment session or some sort of counseling. And patient and family are also like they are going through a tough time. So what Nilla asked, I'm just trying to answer her like that. In palliative care, we can't have a set rule, like only 5 sessions and then this things needs to be like over. Now go to the next step. It can't be like hard and fast rules can't be in palliative care. It needs to be situational, and it will vary from patient to patient and family to family. And because already family are broken so much, and they are like some of the families, they must be not knowing the prognosis and how they be handling the prognosis and how ready they are and how willing they are to open up for the prognosis. That all these factors contribute to how much family and patients they will be taking time to open up with us, and how much then we'll be able to reach out to their innermost requirements, like social, emotional, and all those things.
Thanks, Kuldeep. Just a suggestion to the group, is it possible that since most of us are practicing within the field, is it possible to share more experiences, as we go through these presentations? Because I think that's where the learning also resides, where we all come in and share what our experiences have been like with real life patients.
Yes, of course. We'll be having our experience sharing sessions in the coming sessions, I think. Yes.
Yeah.
And also, as you suggested, ma'am, Nilya ma'am, theoretical sessions are aside, and practical sessions are something different, very much different from this, because what we intervene on the fields are totally different. It doesn't mean in any cases we can't say that the theoretical things are very much same for everyone. So as you suggested, I think experience sharing would be very much beneficial for others, and also for us to share what we felt during that session or during that visit to the patient. So we will be rectifying that, and we will be just including it in the upcoming sessions. Thank you so much. Pallab sir, I think Pallab Bhattacharyji sir. Sir, I got your question. What would be the methodical approach to those types of interventions as briefed? Can you just elaborate the question?
Hello, good afternoon to one and all.
Yeah, thanks.
See, like in the previous session as well, I had put up this question. No, is there any methodical approach when we talk about intervention? So, like, as the esteemed panel suggested, maybe a few more case studies would add up value to our learning as well as our understanding. And then abiding by what Pallium does, and then you people are much more experienced than what we are into. Still, I'm very curious to know, I mean, is there any defined methodical approach so far as the intervention part is concerned? Like, as you mentioned, different, as I saw on the slide, on the presentation which you made. I mean, is there any methodical approach? Is there any intervention methodical defined approach whereon maybe the number of, as it goes by Edmonton, Edmonton symptom assessment system theory? There's a theory which is very much applicable in palliative care. We call it as ISAS. So keeping that in mind, is there any methodical intervention literature which you people abide, or maybe by your case studies? This is something I'm curious about. Thank you.
So thank you, sir, for your question. The main thing is, I think, a methodical approach, what you have been asked. We are going through the experiences, as Nilya ma'am suggested. Experiences makes these theories works into practice, I think. So with the help of more case studies, I think you'll be getting more knowledge about it. I think we are able to offer you the help during the upcoming sessions, I think. Okay, we will have an expertise suggestions, then we will always there to help, and also I think your questions will not be there in the coming sessions, because we will just brief it as soon as possible, I think.
Yeah, please do not quote me wrong. Like, I mean, I am wearing the learner's hat. Like, I need to learn from each and everybody here. I'm just here to learn so that I can have a proper implementation of what I'm learning. That's the main objective. Thank you.
Palab, just a suggestion, Nilya, this side, there are a couple of books on palliative care, and it's from my experience in practice both. Of course, a large part of it is counseling, understanding mental health, and then the specific techniques that you're looking for, in my understanding and experience, it's primarily taught in MPhil courses. So, I mean, you'll have to go back to these handbooks on palliative care where they talk about specific techniques for specific conditions, and I can connect with you and share with you resources.
Oh, thank you so much, madam. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So nice of you.
Yes, thank you, sir, for your question. I think every question deserves an answer. So I think you got an answer from Nilya ma'am. Also, we will be suggesting there is no proper order for anything. Means methodically we can't do anything step by step. Means if we see a person, we can go and have a chat at first, or the situation. We have to assess the situation. According to that, we can put up all the things together. Then only we can do the interventions and all. So basically in Pallium, we do it as we take as a holistic approach to approach them. I think you got an answer. If not, then we will be helping you on the next ones. No problem. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Mr. Mohan Kumar has asked a question, that is there any standard template for assessment, and are you sharing with us? Sir, actually, we are having an assessment, a tool, socio-economic and psychosocial tools for assessment, and socio-economic, relating to the socio-economic, we are asking a good number of questions, like to assess the socio-economic standard of the patient and the family, like a good number of questions like the color of their ration card, the primary breadwinner of the family, then the standard of living by including their food, water, and other basic needs. And all such questions are included in a tool which we have been used. And for the psychosocial aspects, as Mr. Sharad has mentioned in the slides, we are following a very standard pattern by including the family overview. First, we usually deal with the first we usually mention the name, the family overview, and insight of the patient by including their awareness on the diagnosis, their prognosis, and by assessing or by identifying their knowledge on palliative care. And after that, we'll be coming to the family overview, their bonding, the structure of the family, and also including the genogram in that part. And then we'll be dealing, or we'll be more exploring the socio-economic aspects, and this socio-economic tool will be helpful for that. And also we'll be following by exploring the psychological aspects. Then after 4 to 5 sessions, we'll be having a spiritual assessment. That is to, after having a very good rapport, a very good rapport is established, and once after that, we'll be exploring all those things. So it is the template which we are following in Pallium India. And yeah, next time on next Wednesday, we'll be sharing that assessment tool to you for sure. Is it okay?
Is there assessment tool for assessing the psychosexual assessment?
As of now, we do not have a tool for psychosexual assessment, sir. As of now,
Psychosexual assessment. Any tools for palliative?
No. Actually, we are not following any tool for conducting psychosexual assessment. So we'll be having a case presentation. So we have a case presenter. Ajay sir, do you want to ask anything in between? You are saying something, right?
No.
Okay,
No,
okay,
nothing,
sir. Okay.
nothing.
Okay, sir. So we'll be having a case presentation on the same topic, and we have Miss Teresa Verghese as the case presenter here. She is working as medical social worker in Pallium India, and she has her expertise in patient care coordination and also a backbone of community training programs of Pallium India. So I welcome you, Teresa. I would like to hand over the session to you, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. So now I'll be moving on with the case presentation. Maybe with this case presentation, you will be able to understand how exactly the assessments can help in making interventions. So Sharad have already discussed about what are the steps that are to be followed in assessment. So we'll be moving on with a case of a particular person. And with that, we'll be dealing with each and every parts of the assessment that is included in that. And finally, we'll be moving on to the interventions that we can possibly do. So we are discussing about Mrs. A, who is 31 years old. She is diagnosed with carcinoma rectum and the moderately differentiated adenocarcinoma. Now she is using a colostomy bag since 2014. For all those non-clinical professionals who are there, just a brief explanation about what exactly is a colostomy bag. A colostomy bag is like a pouch that is attached to your abdomen. So for individuals who are having carcinoma in the rectum, at times surgically the rectum will be removed. So the bowel, so there will not be a possibility for the bowels to be moved. So what they do is like surgically a stoma or an opening is created on your abdomen, where the opening is connected to your colon or the large intestine, and through that large intestine, the waste materials or the fluids that is accumulated in the body will be collected inside this bag. For those individuals who have removed their rectum surgically, this colostomy bag will be a permanent thing. And that is what is a colostomy bag. And Mrs. A is using the colostomy bag since 2014. Then she's a widow, and she was working as a sales girl in a textile shop before her illness. So the second part, as Mr. Sharath has discussed, is the insight. So we have explored regarding the insight of the person. Regarding the diagnosis, she is aware that she is having a cancer in her rectum, and the family members are also aware about that. Regarding the prognosis or the course of illness, how exactly it is moving forward, or what is the how is it going to end, such details are not known to the patient. Also, the family members are not really aware of what exactly is the prognosis. And regarding the palliative care, during the initial assessment, we have explained to her what exactly is palliative care, and towards the family also, we have explained what is palliative care. So as Mr. Sharath have mentioned, we know that in most of them, they don't have a clear idea about what palliative care is. So if people think like it is an end of life care, they may not be approaching us anymore. So we exactly have to explain it to them that we will be managing the symptoms, and we will be helping you to reduce your symptoms and thereby increase your quality of life or help you to move forward with the illness. So that is what we have to be explaining to them. The awareness regarding palliative care is given to the family and patient. Hence, they are aware of what exactly is palliative care. Now, the third part, that is the family overview. The first thing that is to be included is the genogram. Looking at the genogram, it is understood that Mrs. A, she is married to Mr. A. He passed away a few years back, but they were not having a proper good relationship with each other. Then they have two kids. One is studying in 6th standard and the other one is in 3rd standard. Mrs. A is very strongly bonded and very strongly related to both these sons. She is having a positive relationship with her family, but she does not have a positive, good relationship with her husband's family. So this is what, and the immediate family members, as she's a widow, she lives with, along with her 2 sons in her family. So that is the rounded part is the immediate family, or who is staying with her. That is what is understood with the round that is marked around Mrs. A and the 2 children. The red lines that shows the hostile relationship that is there, that exists between the patient as well as the husband's family, and a positive relationship that is drawn with the blue lines towards her own family. So as mentioned, Mrs. A is a widow. Her husband died few months back due to Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease is also an inflammatory disease that is affecting your intestinal tract. So he passed away a few months ago. They have 2 kids. The elder son is 11 years old and the younger one is 8 years old. They are suffering from epilepsy and nephritis respectively. So in their house, their kids are also having diseases. And also they have lost their family support, as the marriage was against the will of the family. So as I have mentioned in the genogram, it was understood that the lady was not having a proper good relationship with her husband's family. That was because their marriage was against the will of the family. That is why they have a hostile relationship. Moving on to the socio-economic part, the first thing that we have is the eco map. Looking at the family, we understood that they are having a good relationship with the church, with the regional cancer center, that is RCC, then PHC and CHC, that is the community health center and the public health centers. Then regarding the local volunteers, they also extend a good support to them whenever needed. To Pallium India, where they are having a proper relationship from the time of registration. Then to the kids, they are having a good relationship with the school. Why we have mentioned is that because as the school authorities knew about the disease condition of the father and mother, the school have given reduction to them regarding their fees, and they extend a great support to the kids in their academics. And the family is having a hostile relationship with the neighbors, and also towards the panchayat, they are not having a proper good relationship. So, and also these children, they have a good relationship with the peer groups. About the socioeconomic overview, they live in a rented house, so they don't have a proper shelter. There is no source of regular income for the family. She lost her job when she was diagnosed with this disease because she was having regular or frequent hospital visits, and along with that she was not able to manage her work, so she dropped her work, and now she don't have any particular source of income. They are holding a BPL pink ration card. Then they are availing she is availing cancer pension as well as widow pension. They have a debt of rupees 25,000, which they have taken, they have collected, or they have borrowed money from various different individuals nearby in the initial phase of the treatment. Then, as we have understood, they don't have a proper support from the immediate family, so there is a lack of social support. Regarding the psychological overview, as she's just 31 and she has lost her husband. She is in a grieving state, and there is enough psychological distress because she lost her husband. She herself is having a like a chronic illness is there, and both her kids are having a particular diseases. So she is going through a particular psychological distress. And with all these reasons, she doesn't find any particular reason to leave forward, and there was suicidal ideations with her. Then she was anxious about her children, about her future, about her education. All was creating anxiety to her. Then she was having a lack of motherly affection. She never had a good affection from the husband's family, and she was isolated. And also, as mentioned, the marital issues still persist. So from the assessment part, from the initial assessment that we have done, from the follow-up assessment, and as Sharath have mentioned, we have gone for home visits. Then we have had sessions with her. We called her whenever needed. So from all these understandings, from all these assessments that we have made in different stages, what we have understood is kept in this particular chart. So as a component of a total pain, we have included four parts. At the physical part, we have included that she was unclear about her prognosis. She doesn't know what is happening with her body, what will be happening to her in the future. Then she was having discomfort due to the continuous use of colostomy bag. As maybe you know, as I have said, this colostomy bag, it is attached, or it is a pouch that is externally attached to a person's body. So whenever you wore any dress, it looks like a projection. So there is a discomfort created by the person due to this colostomy bag, and also there is a chance where when the colostomy bag doesn't suit the stoma that is over there, there will be leaking on the site. So such issues cause discomfort and irritation to her. Then there was physical pain due to the illness. Then there was also a body image issue that happened because of this externally attached colostomy bag. Socioeconomically, there was no earning member for the family. Then we have understood that as she doesn't have a proper source of income, she is worried about the educational expense of the children. She'll never be able to manage the educational expense. Even though there is a reduction in the fees that is given by the school, they still have they will be still having other expenses that are to be met. So she was worried about that. Then she lost all the savings that because of the repeated hospital visits. So the health expenditure was too much that she doesn't have a financial stability. Then she was not educationally qualified, or she was not able to go for a job regularly due to her disease condition. So that was also a problem that was creating issues in her family, and no financial support from the extended family. There were, even though her family gave her a support. They were not financially well off to support the family with all these money whenever needed. So that was also a concern for the person. Coming to the psychological aspects, what we have understood is that she was overall her speech or over her conversations, it was clearly understood that she was completely anxious about her future and about her children. She had suicidal ideations, and because at the time of diagnosis and a few days after she lost her husband, her children were diagnosed with different diseases. So all these things have made her like created a void or a hopeless condition for her. So there was a kind of isolation for her. She was not ready, or she was having an unexpected death of her spouse that affected her psychologically, and she was stigmatized from the family. So that was also an issue that was psychologically giving her stress. Coming to the spiritual part, what we can understand is that she was in extreme spiritual distress, because she mentioned that she was a strong believer of God, and she was asking why God has made this happen to me, because she had suffered a lot in her young age, and she was actually in a stage of hopelessness. And she also believes that all these events happen because of the fate, because they doesn't have the blessings of the family. So that is why all these things have happened to her. So spiritually she was in a distress. And from this, maybe you can understand that from the assessment, how we can reach out, or how we can categorize it into all these four aspects of total pain. Looking at this particular thing, we can understand that the person, Mrs. A, she was in a total distress, and it was not only her disease that is causing her pain, but it was also the physical, psychological, spiritual, and the socio-economic aspect that was creating, or that was contributing to her total pain. So this is all about the assessment and the findings that we have made. Now we'll be moving on to the open discussion, where we'll be discussing about how will a psychosocial assessment help Mrs. A and her family? What interventions can help Mrs. A and her family? And let's list a few interventions that can be done for Mrs. A to save her family. So it will be an open discussion. You can either raise your hands, or you can give it in the chat box. We'll be discussing about what can be the areas, or how will the psychosocial assessment help Mrs. A and family? Hands, or you can chat. What we are speaking about is we have made this assessment, and how exactly this assessment can help the family. We have made an assessment. We have all this assessment and understanding in our hand. And what can we do? How can this help the person?
Yes, Mohan Kumar sir, please proceed.
Yeah. Is there any social entitlements for the kids as they are suffering from chronic diseases? This is why this is what I mean. And other one, is there any attempt made to do some work at home as she is not able to go outside? Is there any attempt done for her, at least for some economical support?
Okay, so Mohan sir have mentioned about the three aspects that have to be addressed. So it is about the kids, and about any income generating occupation for the patient, as well as any addressing the financial concerns of the patient. So that are the areas that we have understood, and that areas have to be addressed. Then Sunita have mentioned that few counseling sessions can be done, and also social entitlement. So maybe as she is going through grief, and she's undergoing a severe psychological stress, maybe she can be she have to be given a proper counseling. How can the psychosocial assessment, how can our findings help Mrs. A? So with this understandings or with this assessment, we have come to certain points that she is going through these and these problems, and what exactly we as professionals can offer to them, or how exactly we can help the person. Psychological counseling is actually a good answer. Lakshmi have mentioned that understanding the most pressing issues can help direct engagements of that issue. Relief will be quick and to the point. So maybe what she tried to mention is that we have to understand what exactly is struggling her at the point. At the point, so it is true that she is having severe many problems, but what exactly is the pressing issue that is causing more trouble to her, that has to be understood and that has to be intervened upon. In social entitlement, there is widow pension plans. She's already availing widow pension, so that is already taken care of. Pain management, true, pain management can be done. Yes, sir, please proceed. Mohan, sir.
Yeah. What about the caregiver point of view? Is there any support from her family side or maybe volunteers? Because as she had a bag in her abdomen at all the time, maybe she needs some caregiver. Is there any support for that?
Actually, she was not having any caregivers. Her caregiver was her husband, but he died. She was not actually taken care by her family properly. But at the course of time, what happens is that right now, like the case, the particular thing happened few years back, as you understand. And right now, what happens is that she is currently living with her sisters, living near to her sister's family. So right now, what is the condition? What is the current status is that she is actually able to do her things by herself. She does not need a proper caregiver. A full-time caregiver is not actually needed for her at that time. But when she was in need of a caregiver, she never had one. No one was actually there to support her with the caregiver.
Thank you.
So Ms. Shanti have mentioned that assessment of the problems will give perspectives for her problems and simplify. So proper assessment will be helping her to give like maybe we'll not be offering solution to the problem, but we can give opinions so that they can reach out and they can come up with solutions by themselves. So that is what we have to encourage them in doing. We should never give them particular opinions. You have to do this, you have to do that. We don't come up with such plans. What we have to do is we have to encourage them in encourage them in making their own choices, their own decisions, how they can overcome such a situation, how they can cope up with such a situation. We can help them with the interactions that we have with them. We can make them empower, or we can ask them to come up with the solutions for their own problems. So, okay, moving on to the next question. So that was all clubbed together. So the interventions that can be given to the family. There were many points where like pain management has to be done. Then the caregiver need has to be addressed. Then what else? There was a need for so financial. Haven't you thought about the financial part? Their family was in actually a financial distress, and there were not much income for the family other than the pensions. So they were also in a financial struggle, as our participants have mentioned during the session. The financial part, it was very unstable. And whenever they have an income, they have to spend it for the medicines or for the travel purpose of the purpose towards the hospital. They have to bear the travel aids. Then they do have other like expenses. They live in a rented house, so they have to pay the rent. So there were the income versus expenses chart was like a huge deep down curve, and they were not much able to manage their financial aspects. So what we could do is, like, by understanding all these factors, or by understanding all these areas that we have come up with through our assessments, we can sort out how we can help, or we can come up with a plan regarding how we can help the person achieve a better life. So what we have done from Pallium India, what we, the team, have done is we have done the initial and the follow-up assessments through the meetings, through meeting her in person and through the phone calls. We have made phone calls whenever needed. And we have also gone for a home visits to understand what exactly is the environment she is coming from, how exactly is the experiences that he shared, to what extent it is true true. So all these things was understood through the home visits, from the area where they live in, their neighbors they have. So all those things was understood clearly only when we had a home visit to their home. And during the initial time when they were struggling, one of our senior social worker offered her a supportive counseling, where she was able to manage her stress, and she was able to vent out her feelings at the time when she was in such a huge stress. She really wanted to say it to someone. She never had such a significant person in her life. So what one of our senior social worker could do is to help her ventilate her feelings. She cried out a lot. She expressed her concerns a lot, and it was like a huge support for a person who never had a significant person in her life. So what happened is that she was so attached to that social worker, because she never had a person who sat down and listened to her like this before. So in the future also, what the patient have done is that she kept on contacting her whenever required. Whenever she have to share something, she used to call this particular person. Then immediate medication was provided for the pain management. And when the child was also in the hospital, SAT is a hospital in Trivandrum, which is specialized for women and child. And when this child was admitted in SAT hospital, we have provided emergency medicine support. And as she required continuous colostomy bag, we have prepared a particular case story, and we have included her in the gender equity project, where we are continuously giving her 10 colostomy bags per month. And as we have a provision of giving food kits to the particular person, apart from the food kit, a small food kit that she received from the public distribution system, we also provide her with a protein-rich a small food kit for meeting her daily requirements. For the kids, we were providing educational support and vocational rehabilitation, as some of you have mentioned. We also thought about engaging her in some activity that she could do at home. Along with the conversation that we had with the person, we understood that she is interested in doing the tailoring works, as she knew a little bit of tailoring. So what we did was we helped her get a sewing machine, so that she can do some little bit alteration works and the other works that she can do at home. Bereavement support was provided to the family because as followed by the sudden death of her husband, we have contacted her over the phone, and we kept like we frequently contacted her, like once in 2 weeks or once in a week. We created a created an arrangement so that we will never miss her. We contacted her over the phone, and we have asked her how she is doing. Have she coped up with that? How is the family going? Have they come to her yet? So all these updations was made, or all the follow-up assessments were made over the phone. Then medical support was given to the younger son. We have tried to like always we will not be able to help a person always from a single point. So what we have done is that as she is a person who is requiring an external help, we have managed to mobilize some volunteer support to provide her financial support and the other small supports whenever required. So if she is not able to go outside and buy a few groceries to the shop, so we have these volunteers who can help them or assist them in purchasing these groceries or be the medicine. They will be helping them. So we have mobilized a small volunteer support to the particular person. And regarding the travel aid, we initially supported the person because in the initial times, what she mentioned that as she was not having enough money, she was not coming to hospital. So what we have done is that as we had a provision to provide a travel aid to the person, we provided her with a travel aid so that her coming to the medical college for medical college OP for the review was frequent and very regular. So these were the supports that we could do from the part of Pallium India. So all these intervention parts came up only after the assessments that we have done. And the assessments, it's not from the initial assessment. As Sharad have mentioned, it is an ongoing process, and even during each and every assessments or each and every sessions that we have with this particular person, we will be coming to understand what exactly is her need at the point of time. So based on that, what we do is like either we'll be seeking the help of the volunteer to reach her, or if that is not possible, we'll be trying other methods to reach out to her. So that is how we manage to support this particular person. So the present update is that she's fine and she is not in much pain, and her pain is actually manageable with the medications. She is still continuing to use the colostomy bag. She has started she have changed a lot, and she started becoming a bit more active, and she is like back to her normal life, a kind of back to her normal life. Currently, she is doing this alteration works with the swaying machine. Along with that, what she started is that she herself started a small business of selling the plant cuttings in the market. So what she said was like, I know you have been giving me the travel aids all this while, but now I have to earn myself to at least manage my travel aid. So I'll never make you pay me. So I have started a small business with which I can earn few rupees, with which I can at least come once for the review at medical college. So that is what she said, and we were so happy with the transformation she had from our initial assessment to the final assessment. So this is how a psychosocial thing works. This is one of the example that we have done. Hope at least you have had a brief idea regarding how the assessment and intervention is made by the social workers in Pallium India. It's also a teamwork, as we have mentioned in the last session. It is also a teamwork. Whatever we understood, we will be discussing within the team. We'll be asking the opinions from the doctors, from the nurses, and all the other professionals, and we'll be having a joint effort to have a proper intervention for the patient. And so that's all about the case presentation.
Ms. Varghese, this is Mudrai from Mysore, and it was a beautiful example, and the presentation was very nice. And it is so rewarding to see that the transformation that is happening in a very, very hopeless condition to a very hopeful condition. It's very rewarding when you're telling that the patient is so much motivated to earn for herself, to take care of the partial expenditure, though not fully. At least she is able to do partially, she is able to take care of herself. It's a wonderful transformation, madam. So congratulations to you.
Thank you so much, sir. And we were also so happy to see that transformation. When individuals start saying like that, we'll be also motivated enough to support the person. So we are not like, as there is a saying, we are not feeding them with the fish, but we are helping them to catch the fish. That is what we do. We actually have to do that, actually. There was a question raised by Shanti regarding how long can one colostomy bag be used. It depends on the as far as I know, it depends on the way discharge that the waste discharge that is happening, because for few person they can use this colostomy bag once in a week. They can change this bag once in a week. For few person, they have been saying to us that they need to change it twice, once in 2 days. That is what they do. So it depends. For individuals, it varies. Does anyone have any more questions?
Teresa, why can't we add this food kit distribution for this help? Food kit distribution of Far India.
Sir, she is already a food kit beneficiary.
That you can mention. You didn't mention that.
Yes, sir, I have mentioned food kit monthly ration, point number 7. Is there any more questions or suggestions from anyone regarding the presentation, the case presentation, as well as the content presentation?
Can I? I'm Satish Kalra from Hisar. I hope I am audible. I am being heard.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my just one suggestion is that in this north part, I reside in Hisar. This is 150 kilometers from Delhi. Even the medicos are not aware of the palliative care thing. So my suggestion is that if we could strengthen language-wise material development, that would be fine. The whole thing is that we are getting all the things in English. On your suggestion, I attended Stanford the university course also in 2019. My concern is the expansion of this whole activity in other languages, and if we could form language-wise groups so that we can interact and we can strengthen the material development in the languages, regional languages also. I have written it in the chat box also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that comment. So we truly believe that language is definitely a barrier for you to expand palliative care in your premises. But at present, we are only able to provide this complete knowledge in English, but we are also planning for other programs where we can inculcate Hindi and bring in Hindi speakers to bring in palliative care to other denominations too. So once we have that program in place, we will definitely let you know, sir.
My suggestion is that we, the participants who have heard you, we can also contribute towards that. I'm only, my opinion is that, so that it becomes a participative activity.
Yes, sir. Yes, truly agreeing, sir.
So, yes, that's about the session. And I hope you have got an idea about the basic psychosocial assessments, the tools that are used and all. So I'll be sharing you the tools that we are using in Pallium before next Wednesday. And to sum up, assessment is actually an ongoing process as the psychosocial needs of the patients may differ according to the course of illness. As the course of illness changes, the psychosocial interventions and that the goals and the plans we have to be set also might change. So a proper timely assessment followed by proper goal formulation and interventions is very necessary for bringing the quality of, or to enhance the quality of life of an individual and his or her family. So I thank each and every one of you, and as a learning process, we heard your comments and we got some feedbacks from you, some of the participants here. So we'll take into account that for sure by next classes. So thank you so much. We'll be sharing the feedback link. Kindly fill it up, and we'll see you all on next Wednesday. Thank you so much.